Kyle, a funny story we're going to talk about at the end of our show tonight with Dan Eitel of MLSsoccer.com. I'd like to get your quick thoughts on it. I'd like to call it Tissuegate. FC Dallas coach and Portland Timbers coach getting into it with the tissue being thrown. I thought it was comical, but I thought it was a little bit tasteless as well. Your thoughts on it?
You know, this game's supposed to be fun, and I think there was a little bit of fun involved in that, and a little bit of conflict, a little bit of drama, and all those factors are good. And I think it's been something people have been talking about over the past couple of days, and that's a positive.
Yeah, and you know what? We're just seeing it right now here. And to me, I kind of agree with the FC Dallas coach. I think a lot of times, a lot of people are taking shots at the refs, myself included, as I did early on with Gunter in the call he made with TFC, on and on. But I think a lot of times these guys are pretty good at what they do. And I think everyone has to take a deep breath and step back. Your thoughts?
Look, being a referee is really difficult stuff. You're asked to keep up with play and then place yourself in positions to make instant decisions on split-second sequences. So it's hard, and I think everyone knows that. I think everyone wants to see the referees do the best possible job that they can, and coaches are always looking for an edge, whether it's lobbying with officials or trying to find a way to shade the field on their side. So there are a lot of factors that go into it.
Let's talk about the Eastern Conference early on, Kyle. I said this before the season started. The three clubs for me that have the massive responsibility, the focus and pressure on are Chicago, Toronto, and Philadelphia. And two of them right now are floundering. One is in the thick of it for a playoff spot. I believe it's massive that these all three get in, or heads are going to roll, and possibly a lot of fan support is going to go by the wayside. Talk about Chicago first and foremost, how they have regrouped early on, and then talk about Philly and Toronto.
Well, for Chicago, it's a matter of trying to get everybody back on the field and on the same page. I think you saw the benefits of that against Toronto on Saturday. They were able to put up 3 goals. Sean Maloney named MLS Player of the Week, and that speaks to what the Fire can do when everybody is on the same side. And there are still some issues defensively they'll need to sort out, but I think it's been an encouraging couple of weeks for the Fire. As for Toronto FC, I think the biggest problem for them right now is health. When you look at what Greg Vanney has had to put out in defense over the past couple of weeks, that makes life very difficult for him to churn out results. And they're in the midst of a long road trip, and I think it's going to be a little while before we can really render a verdict about TFC. And for Philadelphia, it's been a very difficult start to the season. They're struggling, no doubt about it. And they were kicked right in the stomach there at the end at Kansas City. I didn't think they played particularly well, but they were in a chance to win the game 2-1, and they end up losing it 3-2 at the death. So a lot of things to talk about in those three markets, and like you said, a lot of pressure on those three clubs to perform.
Massive game tonight for the Montreal Impact. History could be made for an MLS club. A lot of us up here in Toronto are going to be glued to watch that game and are going to be cheering them on. My concern is this, Kyle. I'm hoping that they get to the final, maybe win it all. But my concern is maybe they might be putting too much focus on this Champions League and forgetting about MLS regular season play, and they could slip out of a playoff spot. And that what have they really accomplished? I think that Joey Saputo would like to have them both, more so getting into the playoffs. Your thoughts?
At this point, they have to chase CONCACAF Champions League because they might never get a better chance to win it. When you look at how the knockout stages unfolded, you look at the position that they're in heading into this match tonight, up 2 goals ahead of the second leg in Costa Rica, and you look at the fact that Club America is the last Mexican representative, and they have a massive hole to overcome in their second leg tomorrow night. So when you look at all the factors, I think for the Impact, they have to focus on going out and winning the Champions League first, and then worrying about finding their way back into the playoff picture as the MLS season progresses.
Let's turn our thoughts to the Western Conference now. That first loss to TFC, and then after that, it has been an unbelievable run for the Vancouver Whitecaps. Couldn't be happier for Carl Robinson, former TFC member, and a guy that is all class on and off the field. Talk about the success this club has had early on, Kyle.
I had a chance to see Toronto FC in Vancouver at BC Place earlier this year on opening weekend, and it was a difficult blow for the Whitecaps, but they've responded brilliantly. And you look at that side from last year to this year, and the big difference is up front with Octavio Rivero, because he's providing that finishing touch to some of those breaks. And they're such a potent side on the counter with all the speed that they have, and with Pedro Morales being able to play the key passes through the line. So I think Carl Robinson's done a great job with a young team, and there's a bright future ahead for the Whitecaps.
I can't be more than happier for Dominic Kinnear and the San Jose Earthquakes, the way they've turned it around, because their fans are some of the best, if not the best, in MLS. A very community-oriented club, solid supporters. They've been through a lot of ups and downs. Here's Dominic Kinnear, I think one of the best, top three in my mind, in North America as coaches goes, and he is sitting in a playoff spot, albeit early on, but things have changed in a hurry there.
Yeah, Kinnear, as always, is making the most of what he has, and I don't think this is a particularly talented Earthquake squad at the moment. I think there's still some work to do, but Kinnear's instilled the right values in the team, and he's watched them go out and get some good results, particularly the victory in Seattle. And I think it's going to be a work in progress for the Quakes as this season progresses, but they do have that gleaming new stadium, Avaya Stadium, just outside San Jose International Airport, and that's a concrete achievement for a club that has needed a home for a long time, and I think you can see the benefits already.
Not too long ago, the Colorado Rapids were sipping champagne here in the city of Toronto, winning the MLS championship, but right now it is all gone downhill this season to start, and in many, many bad ways. I mean, this club can't score, this club can't defend. What's going on in your mind that this club has struggled early on with, Kyle?
They need to get a goal, and that's first and foremost. You go through 4 games and you haven't scored. I think that's an easy solution. You got to find a way to put the ball in the back of the net. And when you go back and you look at the highlights from that 2-0 defeat to New England on Saturday, you can see a Rapids team that's creating enough chances to get on the board, but they just aren't taking them. And there's no rhyme or reason to it, really, because they're putting themselves in decent spots, and they're just not able to convert. And I think they need to get that first one in. They need to break that long scoreless duck and then see where it takes them. I think there's some talent within the ranks. I'm not convinced that it's being utilized properly right now.
2 powerhouses in the Western Conference for the last number of years. Defending champs, LA Galaxy, struggling early on. Bruce Arena having some choice words for his team after that loss to Vancouver. Houston, without Dominic Kinnear, are not having their greatest start in the last number of years. Do you see these two, maybe both of them, or one of the two not making the playoffs this year?
Maybe one of the two, but probably not both. LA Galaxy will improve. Bruce Arena will make sure that they find themselves on the straight and narrow. Right now, they got to sort out the balance in midfield and their supply lines to Robbie Keane. For the Dynamo, it's a little bit more tricky because there are some of the same issues that Dominic Kinnear encountered last year. Owen Coyle has done a good job with that side, but there's still some leaks defensively and giving away some bad goals. And there's still some issues with the type of diversity going forward and the way that the Dynamo attack. And I think you saw that against Seattle on Saturday. So work for both sides to do early in the season.
Just before we let you go, Kyle, really appreciate your time. I want to get your quick thoughts on USL action early on this season. I've really started to pay more and more attention, obviously with TFC2 in there, the Impact having a squad in there. And I gotta be honest, I've been impressed with the play. I've also been impressed with some clubs going with a real strong youth-oriented team like TFC, like the Impact. Unlike the Red Bulls, who we saw, a real veteran team there against TFC. What's your thoughts? Do you like the USL format? Do you like that it's really filtering young players up to the MLS?
Absolutely. I think you have to look at the partnership between MLS and USL as a developmental stride for soccer in North America. And to see clubs like Montreal and Toronto accept that and use it to cultivate players who are coming out of the academy, I think that's the right approach for it. When you see teams like New York fielding guys who are in their late 20s and early 30s and who are relying on players who aren't sort of progressing through the ranks, it really raises questions about what the intent of that program is. I think as an ideal process, you want to use those teams to provide first-team experience for guys who are coming through the ranks and trying to break into the MLS squads. And I think that's the way MLS and USL envisioned it, and I think that's what teams should do is they're looking to make the best use of those so-called reserve sides.
As we let you go, give our viewers, our listeners a tease. In your mind, is there a name that we haven't heard that might be coming to MLS in the summer that'll surprise a lot of people? Who might that be that you've heard of?
Wow, and that's a tough one. I mean, I think all the talk right now is about Zlatan, right? I mean, he's apparently applied for a U.S. work visa. I think personally it's probably too early for him to make that leap. But even the whiff of Zlatan coming over to North America would be a boon for the league, and I think you've seen that in the chatter over the past couple of days.